The Motivator Show. Translate our words into action. Success is ours for the taking. The Motivator Show. The internet's most inspirational podcast. The Motivator Show. The Motivator Show. Translate our words into action. Success is ours for the taking. The Motivator Show. inspirational podcast. The Motivator Show. The Motivator Show. Translate our words into action. Success is ours for the taking. The Motivator Show. Internet's most inspirational podcast. The Motivator Show. The Motivator Show. Translate our words into action. Success is ours for the taking. Motivator Show. Internet's most inspirational podcast. The Motivator Show. The Motivator Show. Translate our words into action. Success is ours for the taking. The Motivator Show. Internet's most inspirational podcast. The Motivator Show. The Motivator Show. success is ours for the taking. The Motivator Show. Internet's most inspirational podcast. The Motivator Show. The Motivator Show. Translate our words. Starting today's show, the podcast going worldwide on the World Wide Web. There you are. I am here. Yes, I am here. How are you all feeling, How are you all feeling? Now, I'm feeling good. I hope you're feeling well. I hope you're feeling good. The Motivator Show. This is where we translate our words into action and where success is ours for the taking. And that you've got to believe. The Motivator Show. Let's get the show on the road. Oh, my dear. Now, but let me get all the technology working for us to make sure it's all working for us, all looking well. Now then, what I would just say to everyone, this has been a good year. Next year will be even better. Next year will be even better. Collectively, we are in the ascendancy as peoples across the world. We are in the ascendancy. Confidence is rising, yeah? Confidence is rising. And long may it stay that way. So, let's go straight into this show, shall we? And let's really mark a few interesting pointers. First of all, I want to express my appreciation to the pilots of GalaxyAfiri.net. Now, let me put the appropriate caption up. There you are. And I want to say thank you and appreciation, respect, of course, to Ian King, who's taken us from night to day on GalaxyAfiri.net, an outstanding digital radio platform. I ask you to, from time to time, just listen. You'll find the shows The presentations are informative, and long may they continue as such. This show also goes out live via YouTube. And YouTube, of course, provides you the opportunity not simply to hear, but to see my personage. Here we are. You can see. There you are. This is me on the Galaxy Afiwi.net. On YouTube, it's The Motivator Show. DE space Motivator space show. There you can find me. There you will go. Also going out live via Facebook, again under The Motivator Show. Facebook Live, that's where you can find us. And we're also now going out live via Instagram. Yes, we're now utilizing Instagram Live, 4 live platforms. And for a 5th live platform, it's Mixcloud, again under The Motivator Show. Each case is under The Motivator Show. And you can see it on screen. Please spread the message to your family, your friends, your networks, to the wider communities. Spread the word. If you like what you see here, if you appreciate the content we've created for this past few months, please give us the thumbs up. Yeah? Give us the thumbs up. Let me do the thumbs up, shall we? There you are. Give us the thumbs up at the very least. There you are. The digital thumbs is complementing my thumb. There you go. But if you're on YouTube, please give us a true appreciation. Why not simply subscribe for free? Subscribe for free. Or should I play that little caption? I'm going to play it. Here we are. There you are. Subscribe for free. And that's what that does to the YouTube algorithm. It tells people and the wider millions of YouTube viewers that this is a platform to go to. Okay? And it directs traffic towards us. I ask you, please support us. Subscribe for free. Okay? It doesn't cost you a penny. There you are. There you are. Now let me move on. Because I'm always appreciative of the wonderful support that we've had this past few months. This entire year has been an interesting experience, an enlivening, empowering experience. And that's what it's meant to be. That's the purpose of these podcasts, of these shows, these transmissions, if you like, yeah? To empower, to raise your confidence, so you don't simply sit there passively and receive information, you act upon the information. That's the purpose of these shows, to inform, to empower, so you are led to action. Remember, translating our words to action. Because success is ours for the taking, is yours for the taking. That you have to believe. Oh, I'm feeling so good. I am feeling so good. I'm really feeling outstanding. Truly empowered by you all. Oh yeah. Long may continue as such, okay? Now, today's transmission will be slightly different from usual. There is no guest, but what I am going to do is to review the past few months, particularly from January through to June. And in doing so, I'll give light to some outstanding presenters, to guests who've come along and presented to us. Outstanding, absolutely outstanding. And such people need to be applauded because they number quite numerously here. But before doing that, there was a promise I made a few months ago in relation to, and I will get to it later on, but I'll just mention it now, in relation to Judge Julian Robinson. Some of you remember, yeah? Some of you remember the 24 trillion that Britain, one of the old colonial powers, owes African peoples, particularly those from the Caribbean Americas. We have yet to get analysis for continental Africa, but I dare say the figure is somewhat higher than the purported $24 trillion is estimated in loss of lives, economic viability, and of course, compensation for actions against humanity. And I'll get to that later on, because it's going to be powerful. Because I've got an interview with him, which I promised to show some months ago, but I've been overrun with commitments. Didn't have the opportunity. But this time, we will. Okay? This time we will. But before I get to any of that, the usual format, as you know, is not only will I applaud my past contributors, but I will also focus on an issue that pervades our entire community. And that is, of course, our health, which, of course, is the source, truly the source of our wealth. I focus on this subject for 20 minutes or so for each of these shows, each of these transmissions on this podcast, because the level of illnesses in our communities is above the normal. Yeah, it is above the normal, and consequently requires direct action. And some of you will be aware that I'm also an elected official, and therefore I see the official figures, even if I didn't want to, it presented to me, and they make for uncomfortable reading. And therefore, it's incumbent upon me and many of those of us who hold elected positions or in the health services who understand these figures and their implications. And of course, we've got some appreciation of what we can do, both as individually, within our families and in our wider communities, to combat what are fundamentally lifestyle conditions, serious public health conditions as they now appear in our communities. I said before, and I'll continue to say it, if this were other communities and the levels of these lifestyle conditions were at this level, this would be national emergencies. So I'm calling within our communities an emergency call for our health. So I will not stop sharing these messages with you. I was suggested only quite recently, can you believe that? By someone who has one of these conditions and felt that he didn't need to be reminded every strong. And I said to her, I had to say, wasn't just for you. Unfortunately, the messages didn't get to you soon enough. That's why you have the condition. And in her case, it is indeed high blood pressure. Okay? So fundamentally, if we change, modify, enhance our lifestyles, we have an opportunity, we truly have an opportunity to live long, healthy lives into our hundreds and not die early in our 60s and 70s when there is no need to. Not with all the medicines and access to nutrients that we have today. We can and must be our own change makers. And those who love you, those who respect you, will help you to be our change makers. And don't let anyone say to you, it's impossible. Don't let anyone say to you, it cannot be done. Don't let anyone say to you, don't do it. Because you know what needs to be done. Oh, so let's get this lifestyle message slot on the way, because it's so important to you, to your family, those you love, those you respect. Far too many members of our communities have passed this year too early, much too early. And I know, particularly from certain places, I'm from Jamaica, and I understand the stubbornness. Yeah, I understand the stubbornness. I understand it. I get it. But you've got to hear the message. The messages are not intended for my personal grandizement. Some people give that impression, I've got to say. But actually, these messages are intended to help you to make good decisions. Okay, simple as that. To make good decisions. Even if you don't wish to, it provides opportunity for you to make good decisions. Even if you don't want to. If you don't wish to, pass on the message to somebody else in your family, in your friends' network, in the wider community, if you don't wish to. And I get it, some people don't wish to. I understand. But give hope to others. Let that be your contribution to the spreading of the words. Let that be your contribution. Yeah. Let that be your contribution. So the lifestyle message is an integral part of what I do here, because saving lives by encouraging people to think about their lives and think about what they're doing to their bodies and their minds and their souls and so on. Yeah. It's an opportunity, therefore, for us together to change. I've undergone the change during the time in which I have been doing these podcasts, doing these shows. I've undergone the change. I've heard my own messages, because sometimes I can fall into old ways. But every so often, I remind myself, I must do better. And must give good habits to our children. That will be what we bequeath to them. Good habits, good lifestyle habits. So let's begin, shall we? Let's begin. And as you all will be aware, the lifestyle messages are intended to get you to think and to consider. But I'm not giving you instructions. I'm giving you suggestions, recommendations. I ask you to consider, and if in doubt, please, whatever I say today, if in doubt, go see a doctor, a nutritionist, or a pharmacist, whoever has access to your medical records, who is qualified clinically, nutritionally, to give advice. Just verify what I've said. Please, 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 I want you to. I want you to. Because I've said it, if they say it, they might say it using different words, different intonation, that's fine. But the messages remain the same. So I ask you to consider the amount of sugar and salt that you consume each day. Sugar, of course, is one of those ingredients we give to children in the form of sweets, in the mistaken belief we're giving them pleasure. And yes, the sugar molecules are very similar to hormonal molecules that are secreted by our bodies to give us pleasure. This is true. But the overconsumption of sugar, which is the greatest challenge we have, is the problem. Because our pancreas secretes insulin to break down the sugar. So it's in a form that our body can utilize as a source of energy. But if you flood your body with sugar, which is what happens to far too many members of the community, the effect is to overwhelm our organs, our pancreas, yeah, and create a state in which a sugar becomes a toxin. And that toxin is simply represented, and I'm simplifying it just to be quite clear, as diabetes, an inability to break down the sugar. You've overwhelmed your organs, you've overwhelmed your pancreas. So I ask you to consider reducing the amount of sugar that you consume each day. In my case, I no longer buy sugar from the grocery store. I have no need to. But I discovered in many of the foods that I consume, there is sufficient sugar to maintain my health and well-being. There is sufficient sugar. And similarly, I ask you to consider the amount of salt that you consume. Again, salt is added to our cuisine as a flavor enhancer, so-called. But actually, the salt is fooling your taste buds in the belief that the flavors are being enhanced. It is an auto-suggestive situation. Auto-suggestion. Someone makes a suggestion, you believe it, you taste it, oh, it's been enhanced. Yes. So when you don't have it, the food suddenly tastes quite different. Oh, I can't have it without salt, because you've been fooled into believing you need to add salt in the quantums that have been added to your diet. And needless to say, yes, I've heard it said many a times that the mineral salts, that's been unrefined, has beneficial impacts. I believe that is so. But the quantum of salt that we consume, particularly in those countries of the West, the Caribbean, and parts of Mother Africa, it's beyond the pale. Most certainly in India and Pakistan, the sugar and salt overconsumption, just like Africans, it's over the top, with a negative impact on our bodies. And the case of salt, a contributor to the hardening of the arteries, it consequently means that the heart has to beat even more vigor. And in doing so, it raises your blood pressure. And raising the blood pressure means that if there's a fault in your arteries, in your veins somewhere, then the plasma, the blood, will seep out through the fault. And that, of course, is called an aneurysm. And can be very severe if it's in your brain or the rest of your bodies. My mother, bless her soul, passed as a result of high blood pressure. She had an aneurysm. Bless you. Bless you. So I take this very, very, very seriously. I ask you to do the same. I ask you to consider the amount of sugar and salt that you consume each day. For your sake, for your loved one's sake, for your family's sake, indeed for your community's sake, I ask you to consider the amount of sugar and salt that you consume each day. The overconsumption of these basic ingredients can have long-term harmful effects. So I've said it, and I hope this message receives you well. But I also ask you to consider another ingredient which is pretty basic in our diet, and that's carbohydrate. And some of you may not be familiar with carbohydrate. It could appear to be, it's not talked about very often. But carbohydrate are one of those base chemicals that's found principally in our case in wheat and the potatoes, or pastas. There you go. I simply ask you to moderate your consumption of wheat-based products, or the pastas, again, another wheat-based products, or the potatoes. I ask you to moderate it. We're told by the experts, for each sitting, in other words, when you sit down to have a meal, you should consume no more than a fistful of food per sitting. Yeah, I get it, I know. You look at your fist and you wonder, yes, because we've had a lifetime of overconsumption. That's been our problem. So we formed a habit, and I get it, it's difficult, it's challenging to change. I get it. So I recommend gradual reduction until you get to a portion which is appropriate for you. And you will know that level. You'll know that level. But if in doubt, speak to your doctor, speak to a nutritionist, speak to a pharmacist, whoever has access to your medical record, and they, I trust, will provide the professional advice that is tailor-made for you, based upon your needs, your physiology, your height, your mass, and so on. But carbohydrate is one of those staple features in our diet, which we don't realize that we overconsume. And as you know, the effect of the overconsumption is the storing of energy, which I'm going to come on to in a moment. but it is one of those basic and profound ingredients. Another, of course, is fat. Now, fat, of course, comes in many forms, which is not obvious to us. But I want to assure you, it is prevalent, particularly again, if you live in the West, in the Caribbean, in the Americas, and parts of motherland of Africa, most certainly in India and Pakistan. Fat is very prevalent in our cuisine. So I put on the screen an example of fat so you could see it in its original form. Here it is in raw meat. Yeah? Here it is in raw meat. The white streaks is fat. Yes, it's fat. Okay, let me just make sure this is all working well. Yeah, it is fat. That's what it is. It is simply fat. Now, I am assuring you, you do not need to consume additional amount of fat. Okay, when you look at it, it looks ridiculous. Yeah, and even through the cooking process, you would imagine that most of the fat is gone. And yes, a fair proportion of it does go in the cooking. In other words, it's steamed off. But actually, the bulk of it remains in your foods. And that's the problem. Many of you recognize the overconsumption of fat. You then suffer from high cholesterol levels in your bodies. And that high cholesterol means that you've got fat swirling through your arteries, swirling through your veins. And in effect, you don't need me to tell you, in the long term, with the overconsumption of fat, can only be detrimental to your general health and well-being. And if in doubt about what I've just said, please speak to your doctor, speak to your pharmacist, whoever has access to your medical records. And here you see an example of the accumulation of fat and carbohydrates which have been hardened. So what it does, of course, on the inside of our bodies is to restrict our blood flow to our extremities, in other words, our arms and our legs, yeah? And indeed to our brains, if it's that bad. And in doing so, you affect your general health and well-being, reduce immunoresponses, yeah? Yeah, you recognize this, yeah? You recognize this. This is what happens on the inside of our bodies. This is what happens on the inside. You can see an example on the screen. If you're on YouTube, on Facebook, or Instagram Live, you can see it on the screen. This is what's happening to our bodies. I dare say I've got a few of these in my body, despite the fact I generally live a good, healthy lifestyle. Yeah. I'm sure there's some of this in my body. But if you're not taking care of yourself, then you raise the danger levels. And you can see the restricted blood flows, and therefore the heart has to pump even with greater vigor in order to get blood around your bodies. Can you imagine this going on every day of the year, of the decade, your lifestyle, directly related to your lifestyle? I ask you to consider this. I equally ask you to consider the amount of starch that you consume. Again, another one of these ingredients which are not typically discussed, but is found in our foods, and particularly the rice and, of course, these pretty foods, which I'll come to in a second. But let me talk about the rice. Just like the carbohydrates and the wheat and the pastas and so on, and the potatoes, yeah? This is staple food, okay, which has a broad range of nutrients in it. But the overconsumption of starch is harmful. And yes, from the Caribbean, I can hear the Jamaicans screaming now. Yes, I'm going to say it. The overconsumption of rice and peas is not good for your general health. And I can hear our people from West Africa in particular, and those who follow that cuisine and the jollof rice, Ghanaian, the Nigerians. Oh my Lord, I can hear the noise. Yes, I hear you. Yes. The overconsumption of rice in the long term can and is likely to be harmful. I know this is a hard message. I said earlier, no more than a fistful of food per sitting, yeah? Particularly of these types of food, yeah? Salad, large bowl. This type of food, oh my gosh, you keep that to no more than a fistful. You see my fist? Yeah, a fistful. And these pretty food, I see these cakes, yeah? You see these wonderful looking, attractive foods. We'd love to give to our children and seduce them into over consuming sugar, salt, carbohydrate, and starch. Yeah, that's what we do to our children. We present these ingredients in highly concentrated forms as pretty foods. So you present it to them on their birthdays or special occasions. So they associate the overconsumption of these ingredients with happy times. And that's why it's difficult when they become adults for them to change their behavior, because they associate these types of food with happy times. And they would cling naturally onto those happy times. But I ask you to moderate, strictly control, particularly for children, the intake of starch. They should not develop those sweet tooths or habits consuming the starch, the carbohydrates, and the fats. That's what all this is. You can see it there on the screen. That's all it is. Pretty food presented as healthy food. Here is the impact, my people. Here is the impact. Here is the impact. In our community, we have way above levels of obesity or fatness, overweightness, way above normal levels, which is directly attributed to our lifestyle. Yeah? Far too many members of our community, particularly I see young women who are overweight. And you see both men and women with these bloated shoulders, these bloated chests, these bloated abdomens, bloated thighs in particular, and bloated bottoms, or buttocks, if you like, in polite company. Yeah? This is what's happening. This is the overconsumption. And this is directly the impact of the overconsumption. So I ask you to consider all what you've heard today and simply follow the motto of these transmissions, this show, this wonderful podcast, to translate words into action, because success is ours for the taking. Take action. I urge you to take action. Look at that bloke. Look at his belly folding over his belt. Can you imagine? Yeah, look at the woman. Oh, my dear. You see the bloatedness. Yeah, foreshortening their lives. The experts recommend we eat far more fruits and vegetables. You can see on screen the beetroot, the tomatoes. You can see the melons. You can see the tomatoes. You see the norianga. Yeah. You see the cabbages. You see the grapes. You see the avocados. Yeah. You see the cherries, the celery. Yeah. The cauliflower, the lemons. Yeah. This is the food that our bodies crave. You see the cucumber. Huh? This is what our bodies crave. You see the pears and the apples. This is what our bodies crave. Live food, untainted food. This is what our bodies crave. And with this food, our body can convert it into energy, convert it into plasma or blood, convert it into flesh. It can therefore feed our brains. We will feel better if we had food like this every day. Untainted food. Much of it you don't even need to cook, you notice. Yep. Okay? That's what you don't even need to cook. Just eat it as it is. You see the onions there. You see the celery, as I said earlier. Huh? This is what our bodies crave. 200-300 years ago, this is what we would have eaten. Untainted food. You see it swirling in front of you there. You see the corns, yeah? Yep, you see it there. You see it. You see that beautiful food. This is what our bodies crave. This is what our bodies crave. Don't deprive your body of the rightful food that it desires so it can maintain you. Help your body to help yourself. Does that make sense to you? And of course, our bodies need, because we are more than 70% water, our bodies need water. Now, it does depend upon your height and your mass, of course, but I'm told by the expert between 2 to 3 liters of water. But the foods you've just seen a moment ago all contain water. They all contain water. Yeah, natural food. It's the processed food which has much less water in it. When you cook foods, you reduce the water content. Yeah, that's why live food is what our bodies crave. You see a young man drinking his water. You see a young lady who's had her water there. Yeah, these are us. These people are a reflection of us. So I urge you to do the same. I urge you to do the same. This is what I need. This is what we need in order to maintain our vigor. And of course, having said all this about the food, what we absolutely must engage in, and that is regular exercise. Yeah. You see the young man there doing his press-ups, the young lady using her weights. Oh, in fact, I have my weights handy here. There you are. You know, I did 400 push-ups with my weight this morning on both arms and legs, just doing this. Yep, and my bodies crave it, and I feel so much better for it, which is why when I start the show, I feel so much better. I feel so much alive, really alive. And this is what we need to do in order to maintain good health and vigor. Can I impress you enough with my press-up over there? Okay. Nevertheless, it is for you. If you do the same, you will find it hard at first if you've not done it before, but gradual build up. And you feel your body responding positively. You're feeling better in your mind because your body is feeling so well. You've got the press-ups there. You've got the elderly gentleman doing his running. He's got his headphones in, and he's running for his life. He's running for pleasure. He understands what he's doing. You see a big smile on his face. You see a young lady running up and down the stairs. Yeah, she can do that for half an hour, and trust me, that's a good workout. This is what our bodies crave. I urge you to do the same. Yeah. These are examples of our brothers, our sisters, our nieces, our nephews, our elders, yeah, our loved ones, those we respect. These are a representation of them on screen at the moment. I urge you to do the same. Be like them. Be like them. They're an example. They're a reflection of who you really are. I couldn't leave these lifestyle messages without also signaling it's important, of course, for us to be mindful and consider our mental and spiritual health. We are, of course, a very sensitive people. We've gone through many traumas and tragedies. But of course, we've had many pleasures and successes. But many in our community suffer from mental health issues. And I urge you, if you are unsure, please speak to your doctor or speak to whoever you respect, whoever you trust. And I trust that person will give you the necessary guidance and support you need to receive the appropriate clinical professional support. As regards our spiritual health, being a spiritual people, of course, it is so fundamentally important that we take care of our spiritual health. And remember that as particularly African peoples, we are truly and profoundly a spiritual people. Not naturally an aggressive people. We are naturally a spiritual people, thoughtful people. So I ask you, if in doubt, do you know where to go? And if you do not, please, I urge you to think carefully of what you're doing to yourselves. Okay? Please seek out professional advice. Go to your spiritual advisors. Yeah? Again, whoever you respect who can provide you with a signposting elsewhere. I urge you, all of us, each of us, are our brothers and sisters keepers. This is why I've spent a little longer on the lifestyle messages today. I wanted this message to get across to you that as we close this year, I want you to start the forthcoming year with a feeling of confidence, of health, of good health, and good well-being. Yeah? That's what I want you to do. And that will provide all the satisfaction I could possibly require, he says. All the satisfaction I could possibly require. Because you have translated these words into action. You see it on the screen. Because success is ours for the taking. Wow. Now, of course, now that I've said all that, and you've seen why it's important for us to consider our health every day, not just today, but every day, every year, every decade from now on, because that just simply makes good common sense. I want to introduce you to a group of Africans who responded to these messages in a truly positive way. We've understood that these messages, I'm talking to you, talking to them, and have come together regardless of their ethnicity. I say that deliberately, African ethnicity, which wherever part of the continent or the Caribbean or the Americas they come from, they've come together in common aim and common purpose. Pulled their resources together, hired a hall, yeah? And they now have in their midst a wonderful trainer, a person who believes in these messages, has understood to support your family, your communities, your neighborhood, regardless of ethnicity. It is the right thing to do. It is the right action. It is the correct action. So I want to introduce you to an example, and I know I'm quoting them every week, but if there are, every strong I should say, but if there are others around Britain or other parts of the world, please reach out to me because I'd love to talk to you. Okay? I'd love to talk to you. And of course, you can talk to us via the chat. Let me just check that it's working. It's fine. Okay, that's fine. And I believe, the chat is working. So you can communicate with the studio at any point using the chat facility on YouTube or Facebook. You can communicate with the studio using the chat facility using YouTube or Facebook. But I want to share with you the contents shared with me by a group of Africans who've come together in common aim and common purpose, who've understood working together yields results. If you want to go fast, you just do it by yourself. Yeah, that's fine. But if you want to go far, we do it together. I present
famous. Hello, 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 hello. You get one life on leave. Me self get one life on leave. Why we no go use am gladdy and enjoy the time. Palava no dey finish. Time me no dey wait nobody. Now why I dey try for always get am nice every day and night. This one way we all fend we safe, now nobody own. The one you eat with you much we go down you belly now you young. And the balance where you go die left now all the money on. So why for the pity you say for? Tell the motor car where you let buy 'em. If you see finance where you collect bill 'em, oh. You meet up woman where you let yanam. And if you let the man na for keep 'em. Want them oh. The food where you feel for eat na for eat 'em. That fine la power you let na for buy 'em. And tie 'em oh. And if you baby love you back love 'em. But if you love them all now you na for left 'em. One time more, cause nobody know waiting tomorrow all. So every day of my life till old, I fasting enjoyment stay go. Now for land for care for yourself, nobody love you pass yourself. All man they fed for himself. Oh. Now why I know they allowed with the other man they pan take me peace away, away, me joy away, away, me smile away, away. Oh no no, no make nobody take you peace away, away, me joy away, away, me smile away, away. Oh no no, alright. Every day, I see they hustle, they work for the pay. They like na boku on a small you the cage. Land for the loose body 110. No to money, no to gentry. No money make motor man and brother. As long as you get waiting, you they eat. Land for the loose body 110. This one way we all fend we safe, now nobody young. You want to eat way too much, we go down the belly, now you young. Get the balance where you go die left, now all the money young. So why for the greedy you say for? If you motor car where you let buy 'em, buy 'em. If you see finance where you call it, deal 'em, deal 'em. Oh, you meet top woman where you let yarn 'em, yarn 'em. And if you let the man na for keep 'em, one time more. The food where you feel for eat na for eat 'em, eat 'em. That fine the pound where you let na for buy 'em. Entire more. And if you baby love you back love 'em, love 'em. But if you love them all now, you not for left 'em. One time more, cause nobody know waiting tomorrow all. So every day of my life till old, I fasting enjoyment stay go. Now for land for care for yourself, nobody love you pass yourself. All man they fed for yourself. Oh. Now why I know they allowed with the other man they can't take me peace away, away. Me joy away, away, me smile away, away. Oh no no, no make nobody take you peace away, away. Me joy away, away, me smile away, away. Oh no no, alright. Away, away,
Wow, huh? Eh? They responded, understood the self-interest, came together, common aim and common purpose, pooled their resources, led now by the great Ishmael. You saw the man at the front there, leading them on. And you notice, overwhelming majority were overweight, were obese, understood the long-term clinical implications of that condition. And every other family in our community, you've either got diabetes or hypertension, or high blood pressure, as a direct causal link with our lifestyle, which is why we must not bequeath such lifestyle to our children. We must do better by our children. Teach them the healthy lifestyles that we know will benefit them. I say again, teach our children the healthy lifestyle that we know will benefit them. Teach them. That's our duty as parents, as guardians, as loved ones. Yeah, that is our duty, to teach our children the correct way. Okay. Wow, I'm always excited by that organization, I must say. And I've got to say to you that they represent the philosophy of this show. Translate words into action, because they recognize success is theirs, yours for the taking. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, all right, okay. Now, before going to my review of the early part of this year, I just want to give a few big other shout outs. As you know what I'm going to say here, I want to give a big shout out to Brodenier. the leader of the National Association of Black Supplementary Schools, or NABS, as he likes to refer to it. Okay, if you have a child, or you are guardians, or or you believe there are children in your communities or networks who could benefit from either attending a supplementary school or Saturday school or after school club, organized and paid for by our community. Yeah. So not only are these schools, these facilities, simply for purely academic purposes, they're also there to teach culture and tradition to our children. I repeat, there to teach culture and tradition to our children. A sense of self. Yep, we engender into our children's minds a sense of self, of belonging to the world communities. Okay? Because it really is important. So I urge you, if you've got he says, if you are a teacher, you don't have to be a teacher, just an enthusiast, someone who loves to teach or want to help the next generation. I urge you to contact the National Association of Black Supplementary Schools, and their website address is www.nabss.org.uk, org.uk. All right? Or the email address is info@nabss.org.uk. And indeed, you can contact Brother Near on 07958 348 558. He normally picks up his calls or leave a message, send a text, just so that either you want to help, or you have a child you believe to whom you are a parent or guardian, or would want to recommend, or you wish to support and help out on whatever day of the week the facility is open. Please contact Bodanier, and he will tell you of a Saturday school, Saturday school, after school club, or a facility designed to support our children's academic and cultural and spiritual development. Contact him, and he will provide you with the information you need if there's one close by. I commend this organization to you because they're an example of the community doing for self. Because, as many of you will recognize, reparations begins with self. Okay. I also want to give a big shout out to another organization we bring up on my screen. I know if I've got the right, here we go. Okay. You recall earlier this year, we did a podcast, a show on Namibia. Okay. Now, Namibia is one of those wonderful countries which is enormous in size, larger than many times the size of Britain, many times, okay? It is a place for opportunities, for investment, a place maybe to have your family. But if you wish to visit Namibia, contact Loomis Cultural Tours. And of course, our good friend Kananji used to live in Britain, now is in Namibia, and is able to take you around the country to show you the prospects there. It is really a fascinating experience. Now, the email address to contact him on is info@Loomis Cultural Tours. At Loomis, LUMISCULTURALTOURS, LoomisCulturalTours.com. LoomisCulturalTours.com. And of course, you can phone direct on, depending upon your international dialing code for Namibia, is 264-81-717-141. I commend Namibia as a place, as opportunity for you. At this point, I want to give a big shout out to another earlier guest I had on the show. And of course, you remember the wonderful Joan, woman of mixed heritage, who spent much of her resources to produce that great British documentary, which is about life of those of mixed heritage here in Britain. A truly powerful account. And I was truly moved by the watching the show and by our good friend Joan's testimony, which he came on to this show. And I will review this in my either today or next strong. But that was a particularly moving experience. I want to commend her to you and that great British documentary, which you can find on the BBC iPlayer. It doesn't cost you anything. It's available on the BBC iPlayer. Or you can contact Joan on her email address, which is Joan, Joan Great British Doc. So the full stop is Great British Doc, DOC, at gmail.com. All right. So I recommend it to you. I truly recommend it to you. Okay. Powerful testimony. And thank you, Joan. If you're listening and watching, thank you again. That was truly powerful, truly powerful. There are a few others, but I'll just give one more out. Maybe two more, but let me just give this one out. I mentioned that one already. I just want to get the right one up if I can. I want to refer to that remarkable young man who was able to provide us with some really interesting business advice. Okay. And I'm not sure able to find it for some reason right now. It will come up in a second. Anyway, it will come up in a second. I want to commend it to you. I want to commend, you remember Dwayne Reed. Okay? You recall his account, his ability to provide to us, the community, sound business advice. And that sound business advice, of course, is a sort of, it's so important to us because many in the community seek, here we go, found it now. I'm not sure I couldn't find it. Many of our community seek to be financially and economically independent and are seeking to develop the skills to manage a business. As you know, I've got a very strong propensity to support family businesses where men and women come together, common aim and common purpose, start a business, support each other. You remember the wonderful Badu family. You remember that family? Outstanding family. But Dwayne Reed is a business growth consultant. Yeah. His email address is team@dwaynereid.com. DWAINREID, dwaynereid.com. Or you can contact him with his mobile on 07931 403 992. I commend him to you. Outstanding example of us working together in common aim and common purpose and sharing those skills. And I say to you again, don't just take his knowledge. Ensure he can feed himself as well, you know? Ensure he can feed himself as well. But his heart is big, enormous. His arms are wide, open wide. Don't just take advantage of him. Ensure he can feed himself. That's what I say to others. Okay, and lastly, I did want to give a big shout out to an organization to whom you would understand I've got to mention today. And if I can get it, for some reason I'm difficultly finding what I want today, but never mind. I want to give a big shout out to Ubuntu. Okay, I want to give a big shout out to Ubuntu, and I want to, if I can find the right caption, and I'll say more about them. Ubuntu, of course, are an organization dedicated to us developing our growth. Okay, and for some reason there you go, I found it. There we go. So the Ubuntu Awakening Summit, which will be held in Kingston, Jamaica, from the 5th to the 10th of February next year. I'm saying to many of you, you really should attend. And those of you who were fortunate enough to view and listen to my show when I had the great Jose Santos here, okay? His narration of the intent of the Awakening Summit was truly inspiring. And if you wish to find out more, want to go to their website, which is www.uge wealth.com. UGE wealth.com. WEALTH.com. UGE wealth.com. You really should attend. If you wish to ask questions about the conference purpose and intent, contact both Brother Jose and, of course, Sister Teresa, another inspired woman, on 07 961 071 322. I repeat, 07 961 071 322. I commend the Ubuntu Awakening Summit to you. It will be truly a thrilling experience. Okay, and if in doubt, I say to people, ask questions. Ask questions. And what I'm going to do, just spend another minute on the Ubuntu conference, and I'm just going to bring them up. Shall I? So, as I said, it will be on the 5th to the 10th of February next year in Kingston, Jamaica. And its intent is, of course, to promote cooperative, collective, forward-thinking mentality. But we do it together, remember. It will happen together, okay? And its purpose is to inspire, to encourage people to develop those skills. And one of the outcomes might be that upon taking a blood test there, you're able to discover the people that you belong to in the motherland of Africa. There are so many of us, like myself, who do not have the generational memory of the peoples from which I come from, or mainly from. Because, of course, there have been lots of cross-communal interaction. I say that with a low voice, but no pride. So you see on screen examples of different peoples from different parts of the motherland of Africa, from which many of us from the diaspora, and this conference really aimed at those from diaspora, but those from the continent as well, because there'll be chiefs, leaders there, ready to welcome you back into the fold. Yeah, ready to welcome you back into the fold, waiting for you to make and take that step. It is so important for us all. And in taking that step, you will then find a new sense of freedom. Yeah? A new sense of self. You feel truly empowered. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to put that caption back up again on the wordings. Okay, I'm just going to put it back up on the screen again, because I think it's necessary for you all to appreciate the caption. Okay? And that caption looks at the wealth that's in Africa, okay, and the many peoples. So the purpose of the summit would be to identify your ancestral lineage, okay? It will provide you with opportunities for investment, a place for you to grow your families. It will identify what are your skills? What are you able to bring to Africa? But most importantly, I say, but there are many advantages here. Being able to identify through a blood test the ethnic group from which you are ascended from. Oh yeah, I think that's worthwhile. Oh yeah, that alone. I'm not sure Jose fully appreciated the impact of that statement. That alone. So here on the screen, you could see samples of the proposed agenda, which will be quite extensive. Okay, over those days, which will be about an understanding Ubuntu, come back, go back and fetch. Yeah. And we have some wonderful speakers. Okay, wonderful speakers. The one that I point out, who was a guest on this show, and that's Pi Ratio. He's a mathematician par excellence. Okay, he's someone who would teach a great deal. Just one example of the many outstanding contributors. But I will continue to promote the Ubuntu Awakening Summit because we need to attend. You need to go. Give me the thumbs up if you would intend to attend. Give me the thumbs up. That's what I need to know. And of course, if you're on YouTube, please, please, please subscribe. It doesn't cost you a penny. It doesn't cost you a penny. And if you're on the chat, please, why not? Why not? You can interact with me in the studio, the chat on YouTube and, of course, Facebook. And good old, I see Dwayne there. Good. Thumbs up to you again, Dwayne. Well done. Keep up the good works. Keep up the good works. All right. Okay. I took slightly longer on the health and the applauding because this is the review show, okay, where I'm given the opportunity to spend slightly longer on those aspects of the show that has really made these podcasts, these shows, worthwhile. And I hope you would agree. But I want to now focus on a matter of real interest, okay? You recall, early this year, I did a show which focused on reparations, okay? I did that show deliberately because there was a judge, a Jamaican judge, now in The Hague, okay? He's a judge in the international courts who commissioned with an agency research into the transatlantic chattel enslavement of Africans. Okay? And that research produced some really quite astounding results. Results I wasn't anticipating. I was not anticipating. But what I want to do with you today, I want to share with you some of the outcomes of that research. And then I'm going to go to the interview I did with Judge Robinson. Okay, so let me bring it into the stream. I just want you to see this. So, but before I begin discussing Judge Robinson, or His Excellency Judge Robinson, I should say, I want to give a big shout out to that outstanding person. He's a doctor now, okay? And many of you will recognize him, Dr. Robert Beckford. His documentary, The Empire Pays Back, it went out live in 2005. But for me, opened my eyes as to why Britain, Portugal, Spain, France, Belgium, Germany, amongst other countries, are liable to pay reparations. And in the case of Britain, at least in respect of the Caribbean, it is currently estimated at $24 trillion. If we're here today, and if we stand tall, it's because we stand on the shoulders of our many ancestors. $24 trillion. That's a current estimate that Judge Robinson's group of experts have discovered. Okay. Now, on the screen, I'm just going to put that caption up again, if I may. I'm just going to put it up again. I'm going to just give light to this. So in 2021, a symposium was held at the University of West Indies in combination with the University of West Indies and the American Society of International Law. Okay, I want you to look these two organizations up, the American Society of International Law and the University of West Indies. A symposium held in 2021, which investigated the legal basis for the chattel enslavement of African peoples by European countries. Now, this was a conference not of ordinary people, but of academics, professional, legal scholars, yeah, constitutional scholars, international scholars. These were not ordinary group of people. These are the creme de la creme in their trade. These are the people you go to for advice. Here was their conclusion. Customary international law from 1415 to 1815 did not condone transatlantic chattel slavery. Article 31 of the International Law Commission Articles on Responsibility of States for Internationally Wrongful Acts, thereafter the ICL Articles on State Responsibility, provides that responsible states is under an obligation to make full reparations for the damage caused by the international wrongful conduct. Wow. In other words, Britain, Portugal, and Spain were breaking then international law. The second symposium, held earlier this year, again under the auspices of the University of West Indies and, of course, the American Society of International Law. So this time they looked at reparations under international law. Now, this was interesting, and let me explain why this was interesting for this particular symposium. Because this time they looked at the, now we've identified this as being against international law at the time. What we needed to do, or they need to do, is to quantify the impact and therefore appropriate compensation. I should say that this symposium was led by the Brattle Group, Brattle, B-R-A-T-T-L-E, yeah, Brattle Group, or brattle.com. You'll find references to this reparations symposium held on their website. So what they were able to do is look closely at this subject and then be able to determine impact. Now remember, the labor was forced. Yeah, the labor was forced. Yeah, minimal health care, no compensation or wages was paid. The loss of liberty, the reduction in life expectancy, the international trauma that was caused. Yeah, and many of us would have recognized the feeling of non-acceptance either in the countries which you currently reside or internationally. The loss of heritage, I spoke earlier on. Yeah, a loss of heritage, not knowing what peoples you come from, you derive from. That's why I support the Ubuntu Summit of Awakening. Intersectionality. Yeah. And as you can see on the screen, we then try to quantify the values. They apply 24 trillion to mental anguish and pain. Gender-based violence, they try to quantify, it's very difficult, I know. 12 trillion. Loss of liberty, further 6 to 11 trillion. Foregone earnings, up to 55 trillion. Deprivation of citizenship, remember you did chattel. Deprivation from one's family, and many other, yeah. These are non-quantifiable harm, so they attempted to give it a value. It's very difficult, I know. But this gives you some idea. Britain was, and Spain and Portugal were breaking international law at the time. So, let's hear from Judge Patrick Robinson. Let's hear what he's got to say. Let me read out what he says here. Let me just read on. And he says this. The Ottoman Empire, described by some as chattel slavery, bears absolutely no comparison with transatlantic chattel slavery. And so it's safe to assert that the incidents of transatlantic chattel slavery were not only unknown outside the countries of Western Europe and their colonies, but also that they would not have been permitted. I repeat, would not have been permitted. It is therefore reasonable to conclude that customary international law did not condone transatlantic chattel slavery. And this conclusion is buttressed by the acknowledgement of the signatories of the 1815 Vienna Declaration that the commerce known by the name slave trade has been considered by just and enlightened men of all ages as repugnant, I say again, as repugnant to the principles of humanity. Wow. As repugnant to the principles of humanity. So, this conference has concluded at least $24 trillion is payable by Britain, but likely far more for the items which I mentioned earlier on. And what could our countries do with this money if we finally had the investment? Jamaica, first of all, can you remember if the British put in our constitution, made it difficult for the government to build new schools, new hospitals, because they cleared out the exchequer, the treasury. So the first action of the Jamaican government in 1962 was to go to the IMF, the World Bank, for a loan. And in the condition of those loans, that you must reduce your public spending, therefore resulted in Jamaica not building new schools and new hospitals and universities. But that's what we could do. New schools, new universities, invest in the people finally. We can finally invest in the people in a meaningful way. Wouldn't that be a powerful outcome? Wouldn't that be a powerful, awesome outcome? Of course, in healthcare, with new hospitals and doctors and training doctors and nurses, healthcare workers, to support their communities. Wouldn't that be an awesome expenditure to make? And of course, critically, when you go to Kingston, which is a wonderful place, but it's relatively low rise, you can see a future Kingston with not unlike London, for example, multiple high rises, with centres of economic activity going on, new jobs, new opportunities for the young and the old, for those who wish to work. You see construction all over the island, all over the islands of the Caribbean and the Americas, and Africa, of course. New roads, proper roads, real roads that take you all over the islands, and of course shopping centres. Oh gosh, the women love this. The shopping centres where you can buy and shop to your heart is content. A thriving economy, in other words. That's what's possible. That is what's possible. And of course, most critically, in order to enable this to happen, we grow our banks, develop a presence in the international financial system. We acquire and develop the latest technologies, and of course, across the islands, manufacturing plants, which is where the real wealth is being created. Not in the financial market, but in the manufacturing, the technologies. That's where the real wealth is created. The STEM subjects. You recall an earlier show I did with Dr. Abu Bakr. The STEM subjects: science, technology, engineering, and maths are critical to this. Absolutely critical. That is what's possible. That is what's possible. So we should not allow Britain, Spain, Portugal, Germany, and so on to get away with it. We must remain true to these words. And here you have before you names of the many academics who were present at both conferences, both symposiums, with, of course, the Honourable Patrick Lipton Robinson, Judge Robinson, who led the conference. So I wish to commend this message to you all. I note that Professor Hilary Beckles, the Vice Chancellor of the University of the West Indies, was also present. Yeah? Oh, some wonderful names here. Names I recognise, and names that we need to applaud. I hope to have them here on the studio. Okay. Right, there you are. I'll take that out of the stream. Powerful testimony again. Powerful testimony. But these were academics. These are people that you go to for advice. These are the people who will know what is right and wrong in respect of international law. Because they're the people who go to interpret international law. A judge, for heaven's sake. Yeah, a judge, for heaven's sake. Anything is possible. Anything is possible. That's why the Ubuntu conference is so important. So it's a part of the self-repair process. So what I want to do now, I want to share with you the interview that I conducted with Judge Patrick Robinson a few months ago, and I promised I would do it, but I didn't actually play it, and I do apologize. I actually played an equally fascinating speech given by the Mayor of London, Mayor Sadiq Khan, in support of the International World Slave Day. Mm-hmm. But what I want to do today, I want to share with you a message from Judge Patrick Lipton Robinson. His message was loud and clear. Okay, his message was loud and clear, and I want you to listen and pay attention. I have to apologize before I begin that some of the sound isn't as strong as I would like. That's part of the reason why I've not had the opportunity to play this, but it is the best we can get it for now. I've got others who will improve upon it. But I want you to listen carefully to the interview I had with the judge himself, Judge Patrick Lipton Robinson. He's a judge at the International Court in The Hague, okay? And he's someone we've got to pay attention to. A leader in his field, as someone who's highly respected and someone we need to pay close attention to. Let's begin.
In 3, 2, welcome. I'm motivated. This is motivated. We've got an outstanding guest for you this morning. I'm in the presence of Judge Patrick Robinson. He's a judge of the International Court of Human Rights and Justice, thank you. Justice. And he is a proud Jamaican. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Thank you very much. You have correctly described me, particularly the last part that I'm a proud Jamaican, because that is perfectly true.
Thank you so much. So, this is going to be an exciting interview, which is showing inform and empower. Listen on, listen on. My first question, to help my audience to get to know you, can you describe maybe a person or an event that shaped your attitude, your life? Person or event. Just give us an idea of who shaped you. What resonated.
I was shaped by my father, Rudolph Samuel Robinson. He was the head teacher of several elementary schools in Westmoreland, Jamaica, in particular Grange Hill, where he served for 15 years. That was right in the heart of the sugar belt. So you could drive from Grange Hill to Negril for 20 miles, and you have 15 miles of that 20 miles, which is sugar cane on both sides of the road. And his mantra was that the cane cutter's child deserves the same educational opportunities as the busher's child, that's the overseer. And he put that into practice in his work. He was a brilliant, naturally gifted teacher and produced many brilliant students. And in fact, for 3 consecutive years, he produced children who came first in the scholarship exams. In my adult life, he died at a very young age, 49. So in my adult life, I have had a sense of a deficit in relation to the public service that we do. And so the work that I've been doing in the past 4 years on reparation of slavery is an attempt on my part to reduce that deficit. I'm trying to reduce that deficit and to bring myself closer to his achievements in giving public service. And so my hope is that through this work that I've been doing, I am working for the benefit of the descendants of the enslaved, not just in Jamaica, not just in the Caribbean, but wherever they were, in Central America, South America, and North America.
That's a powerful response, I must say. Of course, you were born during the time in which Jamaica was a member of the British Empire. Okay? So you're describing scenes which, at least from my perspective, appear to be unusual. Okay? The question in that case, how is it possible then for a man who was born in Jamaica, a subject of the British Empire, to rise to become a judge of the International Court of Justice, and thereby earn the title of Your Excellency? How is that possible? What's all the negatives that are behind you?
Well, I can explain that by just telling you as briefly as possible the particular steps that I followed. I went to elementary school. I was actually a slow starter in school, and so slow that my sister, 2.5 years younger, started elementary school before me. I didn't go until I was 7, which is very, very late for a teacher's child. You know? But once I went, I picked up very quickly, and I was fortunate enough at age 9 to get a code scholarship to Jamaica College, which, as you know, was a very, very elite school, and I boarded there for 7.5 years. At the end of JC, I went to UWI, where I did a degree in English, Latin, and economics.
University of the West Indies, UWI?
No, University College of the West Indies.
Thank you.
At that time, it was a college of London. And that was to turn out to be quite beneficial to me, because having taught at Kingston College as a graduate teacher in English, you know, I wanted to do law. And so I applied to Middle Temple. The fee was £180. I didn't have it. But there was an asterisk. And when I looked at the bottom, it said, if you are a graduate of any of the following universities, you are exempt. You can apply to be exempt from £80. And one of them was a College of London. And the University College of the West Indies was a College of London. So I was able to go to Middle Temple on that basis, because I only had to pay £100. Otherwise, I would not have been able to afford it. So I did my degree first. I came to England in 1966. I did the bar and the LLB. I finished the bar and the LLB in 2 years. Then I went back to Jamaica and I worked in the Attorney General's department, but principally I worked in the Director of Public Prosecution's office for 3 years, where I prosecuted murder, rape, and the whole range of criminal offenses. But all the time, I wanted to do international law. So I seized the opportunity, and I got a Commonwealth scholarship that took me to King's College London. I went for a year, and there I did my master's in international law, law of the sea, law of armed conflict, law of air, and law of treaties. Went back, and I worked for 32 years in the both in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but principally in the Attorney General's Department. And then I first became a member of the Inter-American Commission of Human Rights in 1987, and I was the president in 1991. I served for 2 terms on that. And then I became a member of the International Law Commission, which is the body charged by the United Nations with the codification and progressive development of international law. And I also became a member of the International Bioethics Committee. And then I was elected to the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia in 1998. I served there for 15 years, and I was the president between 2008 and 2011. And I presided over the Milosevic trial in 2023, I'm getting mixed up. 9 years from 23 is 2014. I was elected to the International Court of Justice, and I will complete my 9-year term in February of next year. And then I will be finished with work. I've been working from age 20.
Yes.
When I started teaching at Kingston College, I had not yet turned 21. So I've been working for 60 years, and I think you will agree that that's a long enough time.
Well, we Jamaicans are renowned for being workaholics.
Yes.
So I suspect you will continue working regardless.
You're probably right. Yeah.
What a wonderful career. And for the young people who listen to this is possible, right? This is possible. What barriers did you encounter along the way when they take them up? What barriers did you encounter? Would you define our phases which seem to go slide one to the other to the other? What barriers did you encounter?
Well, the first one I had mentioned, which was financial.
Yes.
Which is, you see, when I started teaching at Kingston College, my plan was to save £20 a month. I earned £60 a month as a teacher, graduate teacher of English, and I planned to save £20. I planned to work for 2 years, so at the end of 2 years, I'd have 12 times 20, 240 times 2, £480. And I had a problem relating to personal family matter, and so that disrupted my savings. And then I got married.
Yes.
And that was, of course, the most important aspect for me. And my wife and I came up to England, and I did the bar and LLB. So I did have the financial problems. And in fact, the first book that I bought, when I got the book list for the bar and LLB, the first book I bought was Oppenheim's International Law, Part 1 on peace, because my mind was set that I wanted to do international law. But the problem was that it was the most expensive book on the list. It was either 5 or 6 guineas. And so I didn't have money to buy like Salmon Untold or Cheshire and 5 Foot on contract, but it didn't bother me. I was able to make do. But that is an illustration of how determined I was to do international law from a very early stage. So financial barriers was one, but the determination and the resolve, I think, prevailed and saw me through.
I'm not going to press you further. I think the audience has seen and understood your personality. I say often in the show that it's important to be able to translate words into action and remind ourselves that success is ours for the taking. You've got to be clear what you want to achieve, and you are a perfect illustration of it. Thank you, thank you. I want to go on to more substantive questions on reparations. Now, in preparing for this interview, you can imagine I've had to spend a number of hours, a good few hours, understanding, well, international law, treaties and so on. And top of it, of course, I've read the transcript of the reparations under international law for enslavement of African persons in the Americas and the Caribbean Symposium, which was sponsored, of course, by the University of West Indies and, of course, by the American Society of International Law, for which you were the honorary president. Okay. You may be aware, sir, that a former British Prime Minister, okay, I don't need to call his name, okay, but I'll leave you and the others to work this one out, has asserted that on his evidence, slavery was legal at the time, okay? And certainly before the signing of the 1815 Vienna Declaration, which sought to address the chattel enslavement of our ancestors by European nations. My real question is this: prior to 1815, would it be fair to say that there were not international treaties that protected individuals and nations from predatory practices, especially from European nations? Were there international treaties? Is he right? Is my question.
Well, first of all, he's not right.
Okay.
It's categorically wrong in that
He's
statement.
also a barrister,
It,
like that.
it depends on his understanding, which was really a misunderstanding of international law and how international law was made at that time. It reflects a traditional European view of international law, that international law was the law made by Europe. The law made by European countries did not constitute international law at that time, because there are other countries in other parts of the world, in Africa and in Asia. So you have to take a wider look at the practice of states to see what constituted international law. And I'm very surprised that he referred to the Vienna Declaration of 1815, because in that very declaration, one of the articles states that the parties to the declaration considered that men of all ages have considered that the slave trade was repugnant to the principle of humanity. So the very document that Prime Minister is referring to rebuts the claim that he's making. So that declaration is saying that there was at that time a normative principle of humanity that was breached by transatlantic chattel slavery. That is the truth. That is the truth. That principle was a part of international law, and transatlantic chattel slavery breached it. Now, you spoke of treaties.
Yes.
But treaties are just one part of international law. The other part is custom, is practice, the practice of states. You know? And when you look at the practice of states, you can see that they followed a practice that respected the humanity of persons in relation to servile labor. And that was contradicted by transatlantic chattel slavery. And that is what made it unlawful. One of the reasons why it was unlawful, because it was in breach of this normative principle of humanity, which was identified by the parties to the Vienna Convention, and 4 of those parties were slaveholding states: the United Kingdom, Spain, Portugal, and France, I think, and France 4. But not only that, there was another state treaty before the Vienna Declaration, a year before, 1814, the Treaty of Ghent. And that treaty was concluded between the United Kingdom and the United States. And it ended a war between the 2 countries. And one of the provisions of that treaty said the parties agreed that the slave trade was irreconcilable, meaning that you could not reconcile it with the principle of humanity. So you have 2 conventional treaty documents that contradicted the statement made by that Prime Minister.
If I may just follow up questions on this, I know this will come up in further discussions with colleagues here. So the nations you've mentioned are all European nations. Okay. What about, of course, China, India, and of course, West Africa, or so-called Gold Coast. Were there any participation by those nations in this international dialogue? Therefore, they affirm what you just said?
You have to look at their practice.
Okay.
You have to look at their practice.
Okay.
And you will see that they never practiced transatlantic chattel slavery. One of the points that I made in my speech yesterday at the mayor's the Mayor's Conference celebrating emancipation is that speak always of transatlantic chattel slavery, not slavery, because there were other forms of servile labor that people called slavery. But transatlantic chattel slavery had a set of features and characteristics that distinguished it from other forms of slavery. And so that's one of the ways in which Europeans confuse us. They say, oh, but there are other, slavery was there long before, but not like transatlantic chattel slavery. Transatlantic chattel slavery was different in so many ways. It lasted about 450 years. It was different just by its scale. It involved taking people from Africa, transporting them 4,000, 5,000 miles to the Americas and the Caribbean. It was different by virtue of its profitability. In 1774, an Englishman in Jamaica was 52 times wealthier than an Englishman in England and Wales. And the only way that you can account for that is forced unpaid labor by Africans in Jamaica. And remember, Jamaica was at the center of slavery. So Jamaica had the most slaves. So that when slavery was formally abolished, and I use the word formally to indicate that it was not really abolished, when it was formally abolished in Jamaica and in the Caribbean and wherever the English had, in 1834, the English paid 20,000 pounds to the slaves. Most of that money went to planters in Jamaica, because Jamaica was the hub of the whole sugarcane business.
You make some interesting points, but I want to pursue the law for this a bit further, because I think you've made your point very well, very clear. And I'm going to assume, based on your professional opinion, you are a judge, if this was presented to you as a case to adjudicate, that you're satisfied that there's sufficient evidence to a case brought by descendants in Jamaica or in the United States to the European courts or the international courts, if the evidence is sufficient that if contested by the enslaved nations, we would win?
I would say so. I would say so. Of course, I only have another 4 or 5 months to serve, so it doesn't really matter. No case can be brought there during my tenure, so I can safely say, in my view, yes, I think the evidence would show that transatlantic chattel slavery was unlawful. And the first symposium that we had in 2021 found that it was unlawful. And it was on that basis, and for that reason, that we had a second symposium on reparations.
Let me answer the question on that second symposium, but of course, again, I've had the opportunity to both read the transcript and, of course, view the interesting video. And I must say, your colleagues were, each of your colleagues were truly rousing, truly rousing. I would recommend, if you've had the time, ladies and gentlemen, young people, to watch this wonderful symposium. I recommend it to you. Absolutely enthralling, truly enthralling. So the second symposium on reparations under law focused on the calculations of reparations due to the violation of international law arising from and caused by the transatlantic chattel slavery. That's understood. I also note that Professor Robert Beckford, a scholar in 2005, his scholarly work, The Empire's Pays Back, was also a reference in that symposium.
Referred to several times.
Absolutely. Absolutely outstanding work. Again, I'd recommend audience get a copy.
Very similar.
Absolutely fantastic. Now, why have you placed the financial onus here on nation states and not on the many corporations or families who also profited from the chattel enslavement of our peoples?
Oh, that's an excellent, excellent question. And it goes to the heart of a problem which we have not yet resolved. The international law is primarily a matter between states, state and state, so that's the first answer. But you are absolutely correct that the plantation owners, who were private individuals and banks, profited immensely. And that's one of the matters that's outstanding in our work, because we were not able to resolve the issue of how to deal with the profits made by private persons. Those profits, of course, from banks and private individuals, slavery being unlawful, ought really to be disgorged from them, should really be taken from them,
Yes.
because it was unjust enrichment. So that's one way of looking at it. But as I said, the report does not deal with that conclusively, and we say that it's an issue which we recognize, but which we haven't yet resolved.
Okay.
And you can see that a number of families today are discovering that their ancestors were involved in the transatlantic chattel slavery.
Yes.
That doesn't surprise me, because transatlantic chattel slavery was a national business
Yes.
in the United Kingdom.
Yes.
It was national, and not only at the highest level, with the monarch, the royal family participating, but just ordinary people
Yes.
participated and benefited from these 20,000 pounds. So, yes, it's an issue, but I have a skepticism about the practice that has developed of families discovering the involvement of their ancestors and paying $60,000 or $100,000, because, and I don't want to appear to be spurning what might appear to be their generosity, but I think if you're not careful, it could come across as a wholly tokenistic exercise, because what they're paying does not relate in any way to what they owe. And if we know how many Africans were enslaved by their ancestors, we should be able to determine the reparations that they are to pay. And once you know the number of Africans who worked on the plantations, you can determine, using the same heads of damages, what they should really pay. So if this is practices to continue, I think it must have a new feature. They're giving the $100,000, but they should be told what the real reparations are that they owe.
I completely agree with you, and
It's a subject we will return to a long time, but it's quite evident that up until, I believe, 2015 or 2018 there have been still been yes, matching, yes. Still been paying. I find it mind-boggling that the taxes contributed to the compensation. I'm going to pause there. There you are. I'm going to pause there, if I may. That is part one. But there is going to be a part two of this interview, and my colleagues are going to continue to improve the sound quality. The reasons are beyond me. This particular interview, the sound quality wasn't as up to our usual standards. Nevertheless, when I'm satisfied, if I can just get I am satisfied that in recording what actually happened at the symposiums, has provided an opportunity, a genuine opportunity for us to see the true value of the forced labour camps that many of my families, my ancestors, were compelled, forced to live and work for free. For free. I say it again, for free. For free. Much of the attitudes that caused this event that lasted hundreds of years and resulted in millions of people dying and destruction of many of my ancestors' artifacts, academic works, artistry, and culture over centuries. I've got to say that just reparations is warranted. But the attitudes I mentioned still pervades British society. Okay, and I'm going to give you an example of it. And this example, I believe many of you will understand. If I can just get it up now. You will understand what I'm about to show you. When you see it, you understand why I bring it to your attention today. Okay, this example exists in classrooms, in academic books throughout Europe right now, and it really is an example of why it is necessary for people like myself, who are in a position to know better, to do better. Okay? So let me just bring it up now. Let me bring it up on the screen. I will show you why this is necessary. Let me bring it up on my screen now. Let me bring it up. There we go. There we go. Now, those of you who can see the screen can see a representation of the global map. Now, I want you to see this. The distance between Somalia and Western Sahara is approximately 7,200 kilometers. The distance between Berlin and the furthest reaches of Russia, okay, a place called Yamatsk, is 6,400 kilometers. But in the majority of maps, I still see today it misrepresents the size of Africa. Happening today. And if in doubt, I ask you now to look at a global map and see how Russia and Europe is represented, and see and compare that to the continent of Africa. Look at the size of Europe on the top on this map now in relation to Africa. We know that Nigeria alone consumes the majority, if not all, of Western Europe. Nigeria alone. It thereby implies that there are subtle psychological manipulation underway, continuing to attack our common sense. Yeah? Intimidating. This is still quite intimidating. For people who should know better, still continue these practices. I believe the manifestation of Donald failure Trump of the United States of America is a further example of this mentality. New leadership in Italy, I understand. Yeah. In other parts of Europe as well, are further examples of this mentality, unreformed mentality. For these reasons alone, it's important to call for just reparations. For these reasons alone, it's important to call for just reparations. This map represents the psychological tomfoolery that we're still exposed to every day. And imagine an English, Scotch, Welsh person, an ordinary person, working person, who knows no better, sees these maps and believe it. Just imagine a number of Africans, both home and abroad, who sees this map and have been seduced and believing it, when actually it's just another example of a jam-blasted lie. Anyway, enough of that. Change is necessary. That's all I've got to say to the people. Change is necessary. And we together must be the change makers. Okay, there you are. Together, we must be the change makers. The whole purpose of these shows, purpose of these podcasts, these transmissions, is to translate words into action, because ultimately success is ours for the taking, no matter the propaganda that we are exposed to every day. Yeah? No matter the exposure. But the symposiums led by Judge His Excellency Patrick Lipton Robinson gave substance to our call for just reparations. You've seen the potential if we had that wealth in those Caribbean islands, in Africa most critically. Africa will be playing its full role in developing new technologies, new forward-thinking ways to advance humanity, to advance our species. But still, we're able to suffer on the mentalities that really should know better. Because this is not the right road. We've seen what's happened recently in a place in the Middle East. Yeah? This is not the way in which humanity will advance itself. Peace and love, he says. Best wishes to you all, I say. Yeah? Peace and love. Let's share knowledge together. Let's share wealth together. Adopt the African principle of communalism. Yeah? Where we all share in the wealth. You know? Let no one go out today and not have enough food, or suffer in personal insecurity for fear of their lives. Let's ensure every human being has a home. Let's make sure and ensure every human being has access to clean drinking water. Let's ensure that every human being has access to good quality health care. Let's ensure that every human being has access to the best possible education that can be afforded. Let's be kinder to each other. Let's be kinder to each other. It is quite evident the world as we currently have configured it is not serving humanity well. But African people have always been in the vanguard, on the forefront, as it were, for real change across our species. And this time will be no different. I look forward to the courageous members of my communities and other communities who will join the call for social transformation. I look forward to this. It is happening now, and why I am the motivator. This is where we translate our word action, and where success is ours for the taking. Yes. And to the next strong, I want you to take care of yourself. Don't forget your health, okay? Don't forget your health. Help others who need that help, okay? Help others, okay? This is a time for friends and family to come together, yeah? Because you're no longer working quite so long hours. This is a time for you to appreciate each other and be strong, upright human beings. Not just African, all peoples, human beings. We are but one species. So, Until the next strong, I am the motivator. Long may you... Motivator Translate our words into action. Success is ours for the taking. The Motivator Show. The internet's most inspirational podcast.